Looking back to day one, you'll remember that we went back in time to our childhood and I spoke about superheroes, the people we looked up to, the ordinary people who'd been called to adventure, who'd faced their biggest fears, challenged monsters and demons, came back to the real world, emerging victorious as a better person. We love those stories from Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, Frodo Baggins, Peter Parker, Luke Skywalker, even Mikey from the Goonies. We love those stories, we can't get enough of them. And that narrative of the hero going through that journey is a narrative that spans all human history and culture and time. We've been telling each other that story since man walked up on two legs. And the reason we love these stories and connect to them is because we can see ourselves in the heroes. We see ourselves in the journey. We know what it's like to be crushed and crippled on the floor, barely able to carry on in the face of our biggest challenges. We know what it's like, and those stories give us hope. They give us hope that even we can achieve great things, but also hope that there's light in the darkness. Because adventure, challenge, the hero's journey, it's not escapism, it's reality. It happens. It's inevitable. It's part of the human experience. So let's prepare ourselves. Heroes don't walk into the battle alone. They always have a guide, a mentor, a teacher, somebody to assist them, usually somebody older than them and wiser who's been through it all before. Sadly, in the modern world, it's really easy to feel completely isolated and alone as we head into these challenges. But the fact that you're here right now is evidence of the fact that we can find ways to get support and help with things that we need. So if you're going through a crisis, and you can't find people in your immediate environment to support you and guide you and mentor you, then reach out to the online world. The online world provides us with all sorts of resources, from coaches, mentors, teachers, to free courses, learning, paid for and free, that we can use to help us navigate these really difficult times as they arise. Heroes do not walk into the battle unarmed. Every single hero has some kind of superpower, some unique ability that they use and that they lean on and rely on, that pushes them through into victory. And so do you. So we're going to figure out what those are. What are your superpowers? And if you're struggling to answer that question, and a lot of people do, then ask your friends, ask your family. What is it about you that they love? What is it about you that makes you who you are? What do you do effortlessly that everybody else struggles with? What inner resources have you drawn from in the past to get you through difficult times? What inner resources have you used to get you to success? Superpowers aren't always the big things like strength, power, passion, courage. Sometimes we're scared shitless. Frodo did not want to go to Mordor. Superpowers can be much more subtle, and in fact, I think the subtler ones are much more interesting, and they're usually much more revered. Mother Teresa, Jesus, Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, they had courage. Yes, they had power, courage of their conviction. But you know what they also had was compassion and love and vulnerability and service and contribution. These are powerful, powerful things. You can use them to your advantage. You don't have to hide them. So what are your superpowers? Ask your friends, ask your family, root them out and write them down. Just as we all have superpowers, we all have weaknesses. What are yours? Now, I bet you a lot of you out there will be able to list me 100 things that you're bad at. Don't be too cruel on yourself. Let's just write a few down because we need to look at them. Let's get clear about them. Let's face our weaknesses. Let's get stuck into them. And better yet, let's learn from them. Let's train them. Let's get better. Like Danny in the Karate Kid, we must train our weaknesses. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off, day in, day out. It's not fun, but it must be done. And that's what our coaches are for. That's what our mentors are for. That's what our teachers are for, to help us learn, to help us improve, to help us grow. My kryptonite is my fear of failure and public embarrassment. I've been burned before, and I'm petrified to step back into the arena. And I can tell you that only I can step into the arena, but I now have a host of coaches and teachers and mentors and friends and family who I lean on and call on when I need a bit of extra courage, when I need to face my fear of failure. Your greatest enemies are not external. Your greatest enemies are not your awful father or your lack of time or your lack of money. It's not your bad friend or your horrible boss or your fat thighs. Every single one of your greatest enemies are internal. The dragons you must slay are your headworms. It's your thoughts. Our minds can be our greatest friends and our biggest supporters, and our minds can be our masters and our abusers. So the best preparation you can possibly do for the challenges of your life that you will face is to master your mind, to practice busting up those headworms, destroying the headworms, and replacing them with thoughts that are powerful and empowering and uplifting. And I know this because I used to have some horrific headworms. It was probably around 15 years ago that I first heard about the idea of watching your thoughts. And when I heard about it, I started listening to my thoughts. And you know what I heard the most often? Do you know what was on repeat every day in my head? It was, Helen, you fat, ugly fuck. I mean, it's like hard for me to even say that. I'm mortified because I would never even say that. I would never say that to anyone. It's so cruel. And yet I had it on repeat in my head, day in, day out, day in, day out. And so I was encouraged to replace that thought with, I'm beautiful. Now, I promise you at first, it felt completely inauthentic. It felt like a bold-faced lie. I could barely look in the mirror. I hated myself so much. But 15 years later, now when I go have a shower and I get out of the shower and I see my reflection, I fucking love my body. Ooh, sorry. I freaking love my body. Yeah, it's not perfect. Yeah, I've got flaws. I've got, hair that I can never control. It drives me nuts. And I've got red cheeks all the time. And my skin's getting older. And, my body's not as flexible as it used to be. But I've chosen not to punish myself anymore. I've chosen to populate my mind with thoughts that make me feel good. Because it's a much happier place to live. Look, it's still a journey. I'm not perfect. I still have days when I can hear myself kicking my own ass and I just can't seem to do anything about it. But now when I hear the headworms, I'm learning to just witness them and let them go. And I have no doubt that you, like every other human, battle two headworms the most. I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy of love. And those two flipper headworms will get you every single time. They will paralyze you. So if your mind is a nasty neighborhood, then you must prioritize slaying your headworms. Brene Brown calls this the reckoning, and it's a reckoning that every hero must go through. And I tell you what, the greatest freedom it is possible for anybody to experience is the freedom from the brutality of our minds. It's the freedom from hatred of others and hatred of ourselves, and it's the gift of love. As we emerge from these real tests of our spirit and our soul and challenge and hardship and pain, there's always gifts. And sometimes it's success and love and self-confidence. It could be any number of things, but I tell you what it always is the gift of learning. We can learn something about ourselves and we can elevate ourselves and become something just a little bit better. We can see something in ourselves we'd never seen before. Sadly, we live in a society that really tries its best to avoid pain. It avoids failure, pain, challenge, suffering at all costs. At all costs. We are the age of instant gratification and a desperate attempt to avoid any discomfort. Society pathologizes pain, it medicates it, it finds failure embarrassing, it makes it wrong, it alienates it, it isolates it. It's the reason addiction is so prevalent and why suicide is so common. Society has made hardship bad, and anybody experiencing hardship must be avoided. Now, of course, it's completely human instinct to avoid pain. But when we're faced with pain, hardship, challenge, we have a choice. We can choose to be the medicated masses, we can choose to avoid and resist and pull away, or we can choose to be the hero and step into the adventure, to step into the journey. We can choose to take on our demons. We can choose to fight our enemies. We can choose to learn. Because whether you succeed or fail, you're always going to learn. And remember, you don't have to go into the arena alone. You don't have to go in unprepared. Slay your headworms, you must. Your Jedi awaits. But don't hesitate to call on Yoda when you need a little help. And with that inspirational story done, today's challenge, as always, take one action in the direction of your dreams. Action, 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 baby. It's where the magic happens. And I just want you today to write down your superpowers and write down your weaknesses. I'd love it if you'd share that with the group. It's a very vulnerable thing to do, but maybe there's somebody out there who can assist or suggest or support, come up with ideas. If there's a challenge that you're struggling with and you just don't know how to go through it, then reach out, ask for help, find your Yoda.